made me think of something. You're talking about the propensity of the career of counseling and the art of counseling. The clients that you deal with, do they also have that type of, I don't know if it's a struggle, but finding themselves and how to find the art of themselves and how to be themselves and who they are and all those things that go with that loaded question?
That's a great question. I never thought of it from that angle, but I think there are some people who come almost like their identifying issue is more the existential of who am I, what is this life about, and those kinds of questions. I mean, I think all of us have some phases in our lives. Some of us put it in a
Absolutely.
compartment more and get on with the distraction of living,
Yeah.
rather. And other people tend to put it more in focus all the time. So I
Yeah.
think first of all, it comes from so first of all, a lot of patients come in with some aspect of that. But in terms of that, I guess, if one of the goals of therapy is to develop one's narrative,
Mm.
and one's own narrative of what they are, because, we can see other people very well, but it's very hard to see ourselves. Um,
It's odd, right? How we need other people to see ourselves at times. So odd.
Yes, and we sometimes we reflect who we are oftentimes off of other people and off of, oh, I did that, or oh man, I didn't realize I had that kind of impact, or
Yeah.
eventually, I'm sorry, the pollens are out there. It's not
Yeah.
COVID-19, I
That's
promise.
not yeah.
Um, I think, I hope. I know. So, but but then I think so we may come in because we're stuck in something, or
Hmm.
or
Yeah.
we're, or we have a relationship problem, and through that we begin to say, well, why? Why do I have this? Why do I consistently have this problem? Why am I afraid to confront my boss or confront somebody? Or why am
Hmm.
I over confrontive?
Hmm.
And eventually then we start to see the connections. It's not all about the past and our parents and all that, but there is an archaeological piece of it occasionally that might
I like that
arise.
word.
And yeah, so you do the archaeology and you say, wow, okay, yeah, I was in that influence and that influence. And of course, who was that like? And you begin to see, and so you start to hook up the pieces, or this happened to be in grade school,
Mm.
or my genetic propensity or tendency is to go this route. And then so then you start to get your narrative together. You start to see, okay, that explains my behaviors. Now I can make a decision. And this is where the hopeful, positive part comes out, speaking to your theme that you've asked me to stay with a little bit, um, is, that so the way change occurs, I think, and this is not at all scientific, but I'm sure a good neurologist could probably put this a lot better.
Okay.
Um, but I think that we kind of first have to catch ourselves in what's automatic. In social work school, they say our behavior is either syntonic or dystonic to ourselves. So
Hmm.
if it's syntonic, we don't realize it. It's just going along. It's sort of normal to us. If we make it dystonic, it's like, whoa, I just did that. It's like it stands out because
Hmm.
it's discordant. It's not going with ourselves. And so the aim a lot of times is to make something that's maladaptive, that's not a good behavior, be discordant instead of be like the
Part
way
of your
it
natural flow. Yeah.
part of your flow.
Yeah.
So once you begin to catch yourself in this, and another way to put this in the more like the psychoanalytic field is your organizing principles, your automatic tapes that are playing in the back of your head,
Yeah.
and they're unconscious.
Yeah.
So really, 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 the goal of, I'm going all over the place. I'm sorry,
Oh, please, please.
but the goal of psychoanalysis is to make the unconscious conscious.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
what we're doing is we're taking what's dystonic and making it, I mean, what's syntonic and making it dystonic.
Hmm.
And so okay, so that's the premise. And so if when you can finally catch it, at first it's like, I just did that. Damn, I just did that. How did
Yeah. Yeah.
I know I did it, and I know it's not good. All right, I did it. So a little compassion for yourself.
Hmm.
Then
Hopefully. Hopefully.
hopefully, right, because we can beat ourselves up
You
heavily
really
too.
beat yourself up.
Oh man, well then the gavel comes here,
Yeah. Here instead of on the table. Yeah.
right, right. But but so then the next step is I'm doing it. I can't really stop myself, but I know I'm doing it. But it's like still I'm just going to do it. Hey, screw it. I'm going to do it. All right. So then eventually I'm about to do it. I'm about to do this. I don't have to do this. And there's a
Yeah.
decision point you can make.
Yeah.
And you can begin to change the behavior.
Yeah.
Now you start to habituate a new behavior. The neural pathways or whatever you want to
Yeah.
call them
Yeah.
start to go this way. And then under great stress, they regress, they go back to the old way. But
But you
most
still
of the
keep
time
at
now,
it.
they're going the new way, and you've developed a change, a new pattern.
Yeah.
But some of our themes are very, very
Ingrained
deeply
and
rooted,
very
ingrained.
much part of our lives, and
Yeah,
so it sounds as if there's work involved with um,
that's great. That's
being
great.
who you are, identifying something that you do not agree with in your personality or your habit or your environment, then taking up the task to not only identify it but stop that momentum that you got to exert the same amount of force to, you know.
I couldn't have put that better myself. That was beautiful what you just did there. Exactly, exactly. And so, how do we identify it? How do we? I mean, just go with any piece of that flow that you just described. I mean, it was so well put. How do we first? So most people, we come into it by knocking our heads against the wall, which is okay. You know,
Yeah.
you have to learn by experience and by doing. And if you're not doing, you're not living to some degree. But so you do it, but then you realize, wow, that was abusive what I just did, or wow, this behavior, it helps me on this one hand, and it helped me cope with all my childhood ills, but it's
And
completely
now as
not
an
right.
adult, yeah,
It doesn't float at all in the real world.
yeah,
Like if you drink and so wow, I numbed all my pain. I'm socially, I don't have to. What's the word? There's a word I'm looking for. Oh man,
you-
oh,
like you're sociable, when you
you're
drink, you have
sociable.
all that fear falls away and you can converse. And what'd you say?
Yeah, disinhibit is the word I was thinking of.
Okay,
Right, exactly what you just said. So you disinhibit, I'm good. And now it's great. You've solved some problems. It's a great friend, you know it, but now it takes on a life of its own. And now the tolerance starts to build up and your liver
yeah,
starts to go, or you
yeah.
start acting stupid and you start losing friends.
And
And
if I can just jump in, I'm just trying to bring clarity to your words. That is just a metaphor. That addiction can be anything. It doesn't have to be going to a bar. It can be just anger. It can be eating too much. It can be anything that you deem maladaptive in your own life. I think that's what you're saying,
or
right?
right. You could look at it. Let's just go to that deemed maladaptive piece. So that, in other words, it impairs functioning. It
Mm-hmm.
impairs functioning on some level, social or functional level, or it, it creates relation problems. It creates health problems. So I guess that I'm just trying to define what maladaptive might be in real life in some of those ways.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then like it could be sugar. I mean, or food, and
Yeah,
food
it
is a
could be. Yeah,
comfort food,
yeah.
but food's tough because you can't just throw away food in
No.
order to you have to eat. And so
Yeah.
how do you just go cold turkey with food,
Yeah.
or like that? And a lot of times some of these things in any problem, let's not just go with addiction here, in any problem, it takes somebody holding your hand or some human connection to move you from where you are, because you always start where the patient is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to take somebody to hold your hand on some metaphorical level and help move with you from where you are to where you can start to look at
Yeah.
these things more objectively.
Yeah, absolutely. I always looked at therapy, since I'm a practicing therapist, and I'm an athlete as well. I grew up playing sports, so there's an analogy in it for me as it is for you with art. So there's always the players on the field. That's the individual living their life. They're in it. They're experiencing it. But there's also a key component to a successful team, which is the coach that's on the sideline. That coach is not a player. However, he or she has a overall view that the person within it can't see. Even though they're playing the game, they can't see everything because they're only playing their part. Where the coach on the sideline, they can see the big picture and guide better. So he or she will blow a timeout. The players that come off the field, and the coach will give instructions about the big picture. And that's how we see therapy, as that where we are. Well, I'm practicing on seeing the big picture, while the individual is giving me the details, the emotional component, the perspective, and then we marry it.
First of all, I use sports analogies a lot, and I'm also a sports fan. I grew up going to my Giants games,
No, we don't speak about the Giants in Satori. We speak about the Jets, okay? That's how we do it here.
I'll just have you know, Mr. Jerome, that anybody that wears green in my office, they don't get help.
What?
They get a different kind of help.
I'm starting to develop a maladaptive feeling right now, David. I just want you to know that. But go ahead. I digress back to you.
I'm gonna take out my New York Giant football with signed by Tiki Barber and Howard Cross. You know, and
No.
no, I get it. I'm a New York fan, but if it were the Giants and the Jets, there's only one that I'm gonna vote for.
I digress. I don't want to make this about me right now. This is about
No,
the
no, no, no.
audience
You're
story.
it's, we're having fun. We're having fun with the whole thing. But you know, seriously, the sports is a great thing. I've had a sort of amateur professional golfer. I've had or I've used hockey as analogies. Like we're both guarding in couples therapy. We're both just guarding our goalposts, and you know, nobody's coming out and playing because everybody's so busy guarding their goalposts that they're not playing. You know, but to your point of what you said. I think the coach thing is really interesting. And somebody told me that about supervision of therapists. You know, as therapists, we need supervision. We need to be in our peer groups or have a mentor of some kind, because we are in this ring with the patient and we sometimes can't even see what we're doing. And we see it, we get in a dance with them, but that's why we go to a supervisor. Hey, so this is happening, and I don't understand. It's confidential. You don't use names, but you know, and I don't. Well, but you see, you're doing this. Did you have any issues with that? Well, I guess I did, and so that's why you're seeing that patient's issues that way.
That way.
And now you come in and you freed yourself up of something, and you can help the patient. And it is. I love your coach analogy, because oftentimes we are playing coach, and we send them the ball, we send them back into their couple at home or their family, and go do the thing that we were all kind of trying out and talking about. And they come back and they report to the coach, and we can see from a wider view, that 20,000-foot view, you know, what's going on.
We can really give some good advice. So with that said, we have this pandemic now, this giant.
Can I just say one thing? I'm sorry,
Sure.
let me interrupt you for 1 second. So,
Sure.
and I think it's interesting because therapy can be advice. It certainly can. And sometimes it is just being witness and listening and letting somebody find their own way from hearing themselves. Because when we talk out loud and the therapist and us, we're in front of a witness, we're seeing our stuff more in an objective way. It's not in our head, it's over here where we and some witness who's
seeing it. So I hear you saying that, correct me if I'm wrong, is that with that ability, speaking out loud, speaking to someone else, we have the ability to self-correct ourselves without somebody giving advice a lot of the times, because we get to hear ourselves and hear what we're saying. We're like, wow, I sound bad. You know, in my head, I sounded like a saint, and out loud, I sound like a monster yelling at somebody, you know?
Touche, yeah, exactly.
Satori.